In Argentina, Peron is set to lose control of Congress. Attack on Burkina Faso defense outpost kills at least 20. People decry weaponization depiction at Poland-Belarus border. Outrage as Nigerian lady wrongfully jailed in Ivory Coast dies. Climate change, Madagascar at risk. Anthony Blinken expected in Kenya on first Africa trip. Former President Gaddafi's son to contest for president of Libya. Today is Monday, the 15th day of November 2021, and I'm glad to bring you the midday international news by this hour. My name is Joyce Iakwari. I'll start with the news in detail. Voters in Argentina have dealt a severe blow to the ruling Peronist party in midterm elections, according to preliminary results, with the center-left party of President Albert Fernandez on track to lose its majority in Congress after almost 40 years. With most of national votes tallied on Sunday, the conservative opposition juntos held strong leads in key swing Senate races in a development that will see it erase the ruling party's majority and hobble Fernandez's ability to push through legislations without opposition support. Juntos was also ahead in races for lower house seats, including an important battle in the populous province of Buenos Aires, usually a stronghold for the Peronists. The results are seen as a punishment vote against the Fernandez government amid spiraling inflation and growing poverty. In a late-night address to the nation, Fernandez went on the defensive, reaching across the aisle and calling for patriotic cooperation from the opposition. Taking a moderate tone, the president vowed to resolve the country's debts with the International Monetary Fund, tackle the evil of inflation, and send a long-term economic plan to Congress in early December, something investors and the IMF have sought amid negotiations over a new deal with the fund. Gunmen have killed not less than 19 gendarmes and a civilian in northern Burkina Faso in the tri-border region where the country has for years been battling armed groups. Security Minister Maxime Korn said in a report on Sunday that the toll from the attack on a military police outpost near a gold mine in Inata was provisional, adding that 22 survivors had been found. The attack came 2 days after an assault in which 7 police officers were killed in the area near Niger and Mali. Attacks by armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIL, that is the ISIS, have continued to intensify in the tri-border area despite the presence of thousands of United Nations, regional and Western troops and efforts by some governments to negotiate with the fighters. As geopolitical conflict continues to simmer in Sosolka, Poland, people are dying in the forest on either side of the border between Poland and Belarus. This weekend, the body of a young Syrian man was found in the woods near the Polish border village of Walka Tereshaukas. The cause of death was not immediately known, according to Polish officials. The restricted zone near the border is a forbidden space for reporters and aid workers, with no one except local residents allowed to enter. Report says that some residents have started putting green lights outside their houses to show they are willing to help people in the distress facing freezing conditions and a lack of vital supplies, including medical care. What happens in the restricted zone is impossible to fully verify because soldiers and police turn journalists away at every checkpoint. Outside blankets abandoned on the edge of thick woodlands are often the only reminder that some people have made it through the heavily fortified border. There is a sense of weariness on the ground from activists who have been calling attention for months to a crisis that people are only just waking up to. Now, Thousands of people are camped at the Belarusian border as Poland, a European Union member, has denied them entry amid a standoff with its neighbor. Nigerians have taken to social media to express deep anger over the death of a wrongfully jailed Nigerian lady, Itone Babalola. According to reports, 21-year Babalola from Oyo State was a trader based in Bondoko, Côte d'Ivoire. Her apartment had been burgled by an Ivorian in September 2019, and she had reported the incident to the police, but DPO informed her that the suspect was his nephew. He reportedly offered her a settlement worth roughly 100,000 naira to drop the case, an amount lesser than the 300,000 naira worth of stolen items. Babalola was subsequently arrested when she refused the settlement, charged to court for human trafficking, and sentenced to 10 years in prison. A journalist, David Hondeyan, had shared the story of Babalola on Twitter in March 2021, and the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDDCOM, had said it was working to prove the innocence of Babalola. NIDDCOM, headed by Abike Dabere Erewa, had confirmed that the lady was charged and imprisoned for a crime she did not commit. The commission had promised in a statement that plans are on the way to engage the services of a legal luminary to prove the innocence of Itone Babalola at the Court of Appeal after the accused had spent 2 years out of a 10-year jail term for an offense she did not commit. However, many Nigerians were shocked on Sunday night when David, who had been following the case, gave serial updates that Babalola contracted an infection in the Ivorian prison. The journalist uploaded pictures of the young lady in an emergency situation being attended to on the stretcher by a medical personnel. Many were equally heartbroken when David announced hours that the young lady gave up the ghost. Environmentalists looking after one of the world's most biodiverse rainforests in Madagascar are increasingly worried about climate change putting endemic wildlife at risk. A report said extreme weather patterns pose the most serious problem, especially affecting the nation's lemur population. Madagascar is one of the world's lowest carbon emissions emitters, yet it is severely affected by yearly cyclones, long drought followed by flooding. The climatic challenges have forced the disadvantaged to increasingly turn into cutting trees, poaching wildlife for sale, even eating the animals and plants to survive. One of the forest guardians, Yusuf, said this is meant to be the rainy season, but they have no rain, pointing to an extended dry period with parts of the south without sufficient rainfall for more than 4 years. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is expected in Kenya today, Monday, as he begins his first visit to Africa as Washington's top diplomat. Blinken will also travel to Nigeria before ending his trip in Senegal later this week. In Nairobi, he is expected to discuss with President Uhuru Kenyatta the crisis in Sudan and Ethiopia. American diplomacy has so far failed to achieve results in Khartoum, where the army overthrew a transitional administration last month, and in Addis Ababa, where fighting between government forces and TPLF rebels have grown more violent. U.S. Horn of Africa envoy Jeffrey Feltman has been to the region several times, but the situation in both countries has not changed. An official from the Libya's Electoral Commission said Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, son of Libya's former leader Muammar Gaddafi, has registered as the presidential candidate for the country's December election. Gaddafi is one of the most prominent figures expected to run for the presidential seat. The list also includes Eastern Commander Khalifa Haftar, Prime Minister Abdul Hamid, and Parliament Speaker Akila Saleh. Despite the public backing of most Libyan factions and foreign powers for elections on December 24, the vote is still in doubt as rival entities quarrel over the rules and schedules. A major conference in Paris on Friday agreed to sanction those who disrupt or prevent the vote, but there is still no agreement on rules to govern who should be able to run. The elections are envisaged as a key moment in a United Nations-backed peace process to end a decade of violent chaos that has drawn in regional powers since the 2011 NATO-backed uprising against Muammar Gaddafi. Complicating his presidential ambition, Gaddafi was tried in absentia in 2015 by a Tripoli court and sentenced to death for war crimes, including the killing of protesters during the uprising a decade ago, but was later pardoned. He was also wanted by the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity. However, educated at the London School of Economics and a fluent English speaker, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi was once seen by many governments as the acceptable Western-friendly face of Libya and a possible heir apparent. But when the uprising broke out in 2011 against Muammar Gaddafi's long rule, Saif al-Islam immediately chose family and clan loyalties over his many friendships in the West, saying that, and I quote, "We fight here in Libya, we die here in Libya," end of quote. These are all the stories making the Midday International News Desk today, 15th November 2021. Why don't you join us tomorrow for more package? My name is Joyce Ihakwari and we've been live with the Midday International News. Thank you for watching.